The Northern Yuan dynasty, or simply the Northern Yuan, was the Mongol regime based in Mongolia homeland after the fall of the Yuan dynasty in China in 1368, until the emergence of the Qing dynasty founded by the Manchus in the 17th century. The Northern Yuan dynasty began with the end of Mongol rule in China and retreat of the Mongols to the Mongolian steppe, and this period was marked by factional struggles and the often only nominal role of the great Khan.Dayan Khan and Mandukhai Khatun reunited the entire Mongol nation in the 15th century. However, the former's distribution of his empire among his sons and relatives as fiefs caused the decentralization of the imperial rule. Despite this decentralization, there was a remarkable concord within the Dayan Khanate aristocracy, and intra-Qing civil war remained unknown, until the reign of Ligdan Khan, who saw much of his power weakened in his quarrels with the Mongol tribes and was defeated by the Manchus. The last 60 years of this period are marked by intensive penetration of Tibetan Buddhism into Mongolian society. The period is known by various names, including the Northern Yuan dynasty, or simply the Northern Yuan, although it sometimes refers to the period before 1388, when Tofastema was murdered near the Tool River. The term Northern Yuan is derived from the corresponding term in the Chinese language. The Mongols held the name Great Yuan in the early period of this dynasty as in the earlier Yuan dynasty, but they stopped claiming the title Great Yuan since the 15th century except during the reigns of, for example, Dayan Khan. However, in the English language the term Northern Yuan is still used to cover the whole period for historiography reasons. Apart from the name Great Yuan in the early period, the Mongols called their nation Ikh Mongol Uls, meaning the Great Mongol State. It is also referred to as the post-imperial Mongolia, Mongol Khaganate, Mongolian Khaganate, Mongol Khanate and Mongolian Khanate in some modern sources, although most of these English terms can also refer to the Mongol Empire of the Yuan dynasty in the 13th and the 14th centuries. In Mongolian chronicles this period is also known as the 40 and the 4, meaning 40 Tumen Eastern Mongols and 40 Tumen Western Mongols. Furthermore, Mongolian historiography also used the term period of political disunion and period of small khagans, etc. History. Retreating to Mongolia, the Mongols under Kublai Khan of the Mongol Empire, a grandson of Genghis Khan, had conquered all of China by eliminating the southern Song dynasty in 1276 and destroyed the last Chinese resistance in 1279. The Mongol Yuan dynasty ruled all of China for about a century. However, the Mongols dominated North China for more than 140 years, starting from the time when the Jurchen Jin dynasty was annihilated. Nevertheless, when the Han Chinese people in the countryside suffered from frequent natural disasters such as droughts, floods and the ensuing famines since the late 1340s, and the government's lack of effective policy led to a loss of the support from people. In 1351, the Red Turban Rebellion started and grew into a nationwide turmoil. Eventually, Zhou Yuanzhang, a Chinese peasant, established the Ming dynasty in South China, and sent an army toward the Yuan capital Khanbalika Dadu in 1368. Tofastema, the last ruler of the Yuan, fled north to Shangdu from Dadu in 1368 after the approach of the forces of the Ming dynasty. He had tried to regain Dadu, but eventually failed. He died in Yingchang 2 years later. Yingchang was seized by the Ming shortly after his death. The Yuan remnants retreated to Mongolia after the fall of Yingchang to the Ming dynasty in 1370, where the name Great Yuan was formally carried on. Known as the Northern Yuan dynasty or simply Northern Yuan, The Genghis rulers of the Northern Yuan also buttressed their claim on China, and held tenaciously to the title of Emperor of the Great Yuan to resist the Ming, who had by this time become the real ruler of China. According to the traditional Chinese political orthodoxy, there could be only one legitimate dynasty whose rulers were blessed by heaven to rule as Emperor of China. So the Ming also denied the Yuan remnants legitimacy as emperors of China, although the Ming did consider the previous Yuan, which it had succeeded, to be a legitimate dynasty. The Ming army pursued the Mongol forces of the Northern Yuan into Mongolia in 1372, but were defeated by the latter under Ayushradar and his general Koktima. In 1375, Nagachu, a Mongol official of Bailigdu Khan in Liaoyang province, invaded Liaodong with aims of restoring the Mongols to power. Although he continued to hold southern Manchuria, Nagachu finally surrendered to the Ming dynasty in 1387–88 after a successful diplomacy of the latter. The Yuan loyalists under Kublai Prince Basilaomi in Yunnan and Guizhou were also destroyed by the Ming in 1381–82. The Ming tried again towards the Northern Yuan in 1380, ultimately winning a decisive victory over Mongol forces around the Bur Lake region in 1388. About 70,000 Mongols were taken prisoner and the Mongol capital Karakoram was sacked and destroyed. It effectively destroyed the power of the Khan's Mongols for a long time, and allowed the Western Mongols to become supreme. Field guns and hand cannons were used by the Northern Yuan army. Rise of the Oirats in 1388. The Northern Yuan throne was taken over by Yasuda, a descendant of Aragbok, instead of the descendants of Kublai Khan. After the death of his master Togastima, Gunashiri, a descendant of Chagatai Khan, founded his own small state called Kara-Delin-Hami. The following century saw a succession of Chingashid rulers, many of whom were mere figureheads put on the throne by those warlords who happened to be the most powerful. For the end of the 14th century there appear designations such as period of small kings for this period in modern historiography. On one side stood the Oirats in the west against the eastern Mongols, while the Oirats drew the side to the descendants of Aragbok and other princes. Khiruge of the Asud supported the old Yuan Khans. Another force was the House of Ogadei, who briefly attempted to reunite the Mongols under the rule. The Mongols split into three main groups: Western Mongols, the Mongol groups under the Uraryankai in northeast, and the Eastern Mongols between the two. The Uraryankai and Samborjigan princes surrendered to the Ming dynasty in the 1390s. The Ming divided them into three guards: Doran, Tainan and Fuyu. Periods of conflict with the Ming dynasty intermingled with periods of peaceful relations with border trade. In 1402, Urugtima Khan abolished the name Great Yuan. He was however defeated by Uljatima Khan, the protégé of Tamerlane, in 1403. Most of the Mongol noblemen under Urugtai Qing sided with Uljatima. Under Yongle, the Ming dynasty intervened aggressively against any overly powerful leader, exacerbating the Mongol-Oirat conflict. In 1409, Uljatima and Urugtai crushed a Ming army, so that Yongle personally attacked the two on the Kailan River. After the death of Uljatima, the Oirats under the leader Bahamu enthroned an Aragbokid, Delbeg Khan, in 1412. Although the Ming encouraged the Oirats to fight against the Eastern Mongols, they withdrew the support when the Oirats became powerful. After 1417, Urugtai became dominant again, and Yongle campaigned against him in 1422 and 1423. Bahamu's successor Toan pushed Urugtai east of the Greater Khingan Range in 1433. The Oirats killed him in the west of Baoto the next year. Urugtai's ally Adai Khan made a last stand in Agen before he was murdered too. Toan died in the very year of his victory over Adai. His son Azan brought the Oirats to the height of the power. Under his Chingashid puppet Khans, he drove back the Mogulistan monarchs and crushed the three gods, Kara-Del and the Jurchen. In 1449 he captured the Ming's Zhangtong emperor, bringing about a whole-scale collapse of the Ming northern defense line. Azan and his father ruled as Taishas of Chingashid Khans, but after executing the rebellious Khan.Dayan and his brother Akbarjan in 1453, Azan took the title Khan himself. He was, however, soon overthrown by his Chingsang allies. His death broke up the role of the Oirats until they revived in the early 17th century. From Esen's death to 1481, different warlords of the Khatun, the Belgatiads and Ordos fought over succession and had the Chingashid Khans enthroned. The Mongolian chroniclers call some of them the Uyghurs, and they might have some ties with the Hami Oasis. During his reign, Mandukhai Khan effectively won over most of the Mongol warlords before he died in 1478. Restoration Second Reunion. Manjul's young Khatun Mandukhai proclaimed as Khan a boy named Beta Monkey. The new Khan, as a descendant of Genghis Khan, took the title Dayan, meaning the Great Yuan, with reference to the Yuan dynasty. Mandukhai and Dayan Khan overthrew Oirat supremacy. At first the new rulers operated with the Taishi system. The Taishas mostly ruled the Yellow River Mongols. However, one of them killed Dayan Khan's son and revolted when Dayan Khan appointed his son, Uluzbald, as Genong over them. Dayan Khan finally defeated the southwestern Mongols in 1510 with the assistance of his allies, Unebalad Wang and the four Oirats. Making another of his sons Genong, he abolished old Yuan court titles of Taishi, Qingsang, Pingchan and Shi Yuan. The Ming dynasty closed border trade and killed his envoys. Dayan invaded China and subjugated the three gods, tributaries of the Ming. The Oirats assisted his campaign in China. The high point of Mongol power came again in 1517, when Dayan Khan moved on Beijing itself. The Mongolian armies raided the Ming dynasty not only in the north, but also in the hitherto quiet west. The Ming's Zhengde emperor lost his protectorate Hami to the Turpans at the same time. In 1542 Dayan Khan defeated Chinese troops just before his death. The Tumed Mongols ruled in the Ordos region, and they gradually extended the domain into northeastern Qinghai. By that time, the Northern Yuan stretched from the Siberian tundra and Lake Baikal in the north, across the Gobi, to the edge of the Yellow River and south of it into the Ordos. The lands extended from the forests of Manchuria in the east past the Altai Mountains and out onto the steppes of Central Asia. Administrative divisions. Dayan Khan reorganized the eastern Mongols into 6 tumans as follows: left wing, Kharka Tumen, northern Seven Otog, Khatun, and later added Uriankai. Southern 5 Otog, and Hongarad, Chafhatuman, Abaga, Abigana, Aokan, Dors, Dervt, Hishigtan, Mu Umyangan, Naiman, Onagad, Huukid, Sunud, Uzimchan, and Urad Uriankai Tumen. This Tumen was later dissolved. Right wing, Ordos Tumen, Tumen, Yanshibu Tumen, 4 Tumen Oirats, Koros, Olits, Dervud, Hoid, Barthud, Torgid, Koshut, Mongol, Barga Mongols and Buryats. The Barga and Buryats later became subject of Kharka. They functioned both as military units and as tribal administrative bodies who hoped to receive Taijis descended from Dayan Khan. Northern Kharki people and Uriankan were attached to the South Kharka of eastern Inner Mongolia and Doin Uriankan of the Three Gods, respectively. After the rebellion of the Northern Yuan people, they were conquered in 1538 and mostly annexed by the Northern Kaka. However, his decision to divide the 6 tumans to his sons, or Taijis, and local Tabunang's sons-in-law of the Taijis created a decentralized system of Borjigan rule that secured domestic peace and outward expansion for a century. Despite this decentralization, there was a remarkable concord within the Dayan Khanate aristocracy. Last reunion by 1540, new regional circles of Qing-ized Taijis and local Tabunangs of the Taijis emerged in all the former Dayan Khanate domains. The Khagan and the Jinong had titular authority over the 3 right-wing tumans. Darayasungod and Khan, Darasungud and Khagan had to grant titles of Khans to his cousins Altan, ruling the Tumd, and Baskal, ruling the Khatun. The decentralized peace among the Mongols was based on religious and cultural unity created by Chingashid cults. A series of smallpox epidemics and lack of trade forced the Mongols to repeatedly plunder the districts of China. In 1571, the Ming opened trade with the 3 right-wing tumans. The large-scale conversion to Buddhism in the right-wing tumans from 1575 on built on the amity of the Chingashids. Tumandrazatu Khan appointed a Tibetan Buddhist chaplain of the Karmapa order. In 1580, Northern Kaka proclaimed the leading Dayan Khanate Prince Abatai Khan as Khan. Representatives from all Mongols, including Irats, constituted the court of Tumandrazatu Khan, who had conquered Kokoenur and codified a new law. By the end of the 16th century, the 3 guards lost their existence as a distinct group. The Fuyu was absorbed by the Kachin after they had moved to the Noni River. 2 other, Doyan and Tainan, were absorbed by the 5 Kakis. Fall in the 17th century, the Mongols came under the influence of the Manchus, who founded the Qing dynasty. The princes of Kachin, Ja'ad and southern Kaka Mongols made a formal alliance with the Manchus from 1612 to 1624. Resenting this suborning of his subjects, Ligdan Khan, the last Khagan in Chabhar, unsuccessfully attacked them in 1625. He appointed his officials over the Tumans and formed an elite in military band to coerce opposition. The massive rebellion broke out in 1628. The Chabhar under Ligdan defeated the combined armies and the Manchu auxiliary Zhaochang but fled a large Manchu punitive expedition. Only Tsog Taiji supported the Great Khan whilst other nobles of Kaka remained neutral and inactive. Ligdan died on his way to Tibet to punish the Dge Lugpa order in 1634. His son, Ajay Khan, surrendered to the Manchus and was said to give the imperial seal of the Yuan rulers to King Emperor Hu Wang Taiji the next year, ending the Northern Yuan. After the death of Dayan Khan, most of Mongolia came under the rule of descendants of his youngest son, Gerzanze Hu Wang Taiji. By the early 17th century, these formed 4 khanates, from west to east. The Altan Khans of Katogoids in the far west, founded by Sholoi Abashi, great-grandson of Jarasanza, the Dazizatu Khans, Khanate founded by Lakor Khan, a cousin of the Altan Khan. The Tushetu Khans are Tulan-Bator, founded by Abatai, another grandson. This was the senior branch. The second Khans at the eastern end of modern Mongolia, founded by Sholoi, a great-grandson. In the north, from 1583, Russian adventurers gained control of the forest tribes of Siberia but did not attempt to interfere with the numerous and warlike peoples south of the forests. They had some dealings with the Altan Khan, who was said to have introduced them to Chinese tea. To the east, in 1582–1626, Nurhaci unified the tribes of Manchuria. His son, Wang Taiji, consolidated the new state and incorporated parts of Inner Mongolia. At his death, Dorgon became regent for his 6-year-old son and was in charge when the Manchus took Beijing and founded the Qing dynasty. To the west, in Dzungaria, about 1600 to 1620, the Oirats became united under Karakula and formed the Dzunga Khanate. This unification was partly driven by the wars with the Altan Khans. The king completely exterminated one branch of the Borjigids after an anti-king revolt in 1675 by Ajaz's brother Abunai and Abunai's son Borni against the king. The king emperors then placed the Chafa Mongols under their direct rule. Aftermath: in 1662, the Altan Khan attacked and put to death his eastern neighbor. This caused the senior Tashetu Khan to drive him out, but he was restored with Dzunga and king support. In 1682, he was captured by the next Dzashtu Khan and his Khanate disappeared from history. The loss of the westernmost Kaka Khanate opened the way for the Dzungas. In 1672, Gildan became Khan of the Dzungas. After conquering the northern Tarim Basin from Kashgar to Hami, he began to dream of uniting the Mongols, although as an Oirat Khan he was of non-Qingizid lineage, unlike the Khans of the Kaka Mongols. The Dzungas in the Dzunga Khanate actively tried to resist the Manchu Qing dynasty. The Oirat Dzunga leader Urdani Batur and Buddhist monk Zalyu Pandita tried to form an alliance of Oirats and Kakas against the Qing and Russian Empire, drawing up a single legal code for all the Mongols, banning shamanism, and declaring Tibetan Buddhism to be the sole religion of the Mongol peoples. By calling up a Kurultai in 1640, which Dzunga Oirats, Koshut Oirats from Qinghai, Torgut Oirats, Kaka Mongols, and Tibetans attended, Gildan allied with the Zizatu Khan against the Tashetu Khan, who in turn attacked the Dzashtu Khan and then invaded Dzunga territory, where he killed one of Gildan's brothers. Gildan responded by annihilating the Tashetu Khan's army near the Tarim River and plundering the tombs at Karakoram. The Tashetu Khan and the other Kaka leaders fled to Ho at the northeast corner of the Ordos Loop and begged for king help. By 1690, Gildan controlled the whole Kaka country as far as the edge of Manchuria and turned south toward Beijing. This direct threat to the king led the Kangxi emperor to block Gildan, who withdrew to the northwest in late 1690. In May 1691, the emperor held a Kurultai at Dolanor, where the Kaka chiefs declared themselves vassals of the king emperors. In 1695, Gildan moved east again. The emperor sent a massive army and defeated him near Ulaanbaatar. Gildan fled with a few followers and later died. Outer Mongolia was thus incorporated into the Qing Empire, and the Kaka leaders returned to Outer Mongolia as king vassals. A king garrison was installed at Ulaanbaatar. The Qing forces occupied Hami but did not advance into Dzungaria. Oirats later expanded into Tibet and Kazakhstan, and they tried to control all Mongols. Popular culture. The Northern Yuan dynasty is a playable nation as Mongolia in the grand strategy game Europa Universalis IV.